Welcome to the Glass Lab podcast, where we talk all things product development. It's our goal every month to introduce you to the people, ideas, and development tools that are shaping the hardware products we all use every day.
I am Grant Chapman, CEO here at Glassport, and welcome to the Glass Labs podcast. With me today at Glassport's Ben Ettinger, the Director of Product at Glassport, and we have Mitch Gilbert, that is the CEO of Oya FemTech products, right? Well, thank you for joining us. So welcome to the Glassport podcast studio. Again, I think the first question I love to ask is, who are you and how did you get here?
Yeah, my name is Mitch. I am a passionate innovator. I think I've been tinkering some way in business since I was a child. I think I started my first business at like 6. That got shut down by my mother, but I was doing very well, very healthy product margins. From there, I really grew to love sports. I've been training since I was 14. I've had previous stints at both Nike and Lululemon, and I'm a UCLA John Wooden Fellow, so major shout out to the pyramid. And then while at UCLA, I got the idea that we could just really make women's sportswear a lot better and healthier. And then from there, we just started winning business plan competitions. We got into Techstar Sports. We're about to break a record for having an oversubscribed round. And I'm just here. I'm happy to be
Amazing. That's phenomenal. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what was the first product that got the Oya brand off the ground? Like, what was the initial idea or the problem you were solving?
Yeah. So when I played sports, and I can even take a bit back and introduce like my relationship to the problem. So when I played sports, I had a problem. I was a state ranking athlete. I was playing with Olympians. I played rugby. I was a lot stronger then. So don't take me like this. At one point in time, I was definitely athletic. And I would get like reoccurring yeast infections, and it made me, I was like, man, I'm gross. Something's wrong with me. It took me years to work up the courage to talk to my friends who were training for the top events in their lives, just to learn that they were suffering from the same issues. And finally, when at business school, the UCLA OBGYN was like, stop wearing leggings. And I was like, what? Girl, how am I supposed to stop wearing leggings? Like, what am I supposed to wear? Magical pants? Is that how this works? But come to find out, we started doing research, my team and I, because we had to, for our thesis project for business school, essentially come up with a business plan. So we started doing research, talking to doctors, nurses, women, midwives, moms, etc. And spandex is like a garbage bag. So it traps moisture and it does not breathe. So then if you're thinking about like what happens to a garbage bag when you leave it in your kitchen during the summer, okay, well, with women, it's worse because not only are we hot because we're training, but we also leak. We leak urine, menstrual fluids, and or sweat, depending upon the phase of our bodies. And so once we figured this out, we were like, oh, who else is solving this? Like, this has to be a thing. Even at Nike, I brought it up and people were just like, yeah, no. Like, it's just
really?
Yeah, can I dig in there? What were the rejections or what were the objections to that?
I don't think it was like as much a rejection as much as like we just don't have the people to work on that.
Yeah.
Like who would be the person who works on that product? Like when we first started this, FemTech, and FemTech is still growing as a category. Like if you Google FemTech Apparel, it's us. Like we're the first thing that pops up. So I just think they were just like, we don't know what you're talking about. And so my team and I was like, okay, well, me being the innovator that I am, I'm like, all right, well, bet I'm just gonna go figure this out. Like, I don't know. So we jerry-rigged a project, like a product. I think I took like a pair of Lululemon leggings and like started like making initial concepts and like went to a pitch competition. And I was like, this is what it would look like.
Right.
And we won money. And then we were like, all right, so we're gonna go build these. And so we found this person who, this was during the peak of COVID. So it was actually hard to like manufacture these pants. And we were in LA and I was getting yelled at because this pant construct had not been made before and it was expensive and it was difficult to sew. And but we refined it a lot more. It's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more like aerodynamic and beautiful. And I'm excited to be creating a culture where women feel like they get to be empowered and beautiful at the same time.
Oh, for sure.
That's awesome. No, I love the Well, I started cutting up pants, and that's where we started.
Yeah, that really did, for sure.
Because that, for me in product development, I mean, what you and I do every day, for the first time we tackle a new problem for a new product, it's always, well, what can I buy on Amazon and smash together to like do something that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
And it's so cool that you had that exact instinct from like your first go, get like, well, I'm just gonna go make it myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think I used to do robotics when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like if you just get that bug where you're just like, well, what could this look like differently? Like
Right.
that just sticks with you like as a personality trait almost.
That's awesome.
And I think we all here, a lot of us here are passionate about this space in general, but for our listeners, could you just kind of, what is FemTech? What does that mean?
Yeah, it is an all-encompassing term with no clear definition. But essentially it means any technology related to promoting a woman's feminine health or supporting the advancement of that. So it looks like wearables. So that's like apparel, how we have, or, if you've ever heard of women who wear watches or bands that help them with menopausal symptoms by like decreasing their body temperature. It includes software, especially on cell phones. Women will use things like to track their periods, et cetera, when they're ovulating. And then it also includes treatments, especially in the medical field. So like women, IVF, like helping them with like fertility. You see a lot of FemTech products and software around fertility, but not so much around like how do we address and prevent other issues like yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, and UTIs.
Right. It's like the everyday problems are the ones that get like under the rug. It's like, that's just normal. You guys can figure that out. But fertility is just one big thing. We can solve a particular problem.
Yeah.
Right. No, and I think that's crazy that when you brought up like the Nike and the other people, like that wasn't, it's like, oh, we should solve this problem because everyone experienced it. It's actually a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
But somehow that didn't track.
Yeah, I think according to the CDC, like 75% of women are going to struggle with feminine health issues. And I remember early on when we were pitching and there was like this old dude who's like, there's no way vaginas have that many issues. And I was like, all right, bro, like you're still arguing with CDC. Shout out to you. I don't know what your wife's up to. Like I feel bad for her, but okay, whatever.
Oh, that's crazy.
And you mentioned swept under the rug. I feel like that's one of my favorite things about this space is just, it's almost, and there are a lot of the stories we come across are almost inherently underdog stories in the sense that there's these topics that culturally we've just historically stigmatized, right? And people don't want to talk about them. But then you have folks like yourself that are like, I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to build a successful business around it. And I'm like, if that's ever a flex in product development, like that's the power move to be had right there.
Not a flex. Yeah. I'm just tired. I'm like in the wake of everything going on in America right now, I genuinely on a lot of levels feel attacked. as quite frequently, I'm the only female presenting CEO in the room. I'm also always frequently the only Black CEO in the room and definitely sometimes the shortest. And so like, it just like, looking at all these things, I'm just tired. Like life could be better,
Right.
And I think it definitely requires a certain level of courage, but what I've seen or what I think is important is that like, given the levels of success that I've had in my life, like I have a voice and I can use this voice as something that's good. Like I've worked in corporate and got job offers in private equity and like Goldman Sachs and like all these things. But, I genuinely have a passion for helping people and also being stylish, which is why I admire your shirt. Like, I think it's great. And I'm just into that. And I'm not really afraid of people at this point.
Right. And I think that's what it takes to do a new tech idea, a new startup. And especially in the space that you're in, you had to be the loudest voice in the room and the squeakiest wheel to get the grease because people weren't traditionally listening to that.
Yeah.
So what part of your story do you think was the thing that kicked over the first win? Right. Because I think that once you get some momentum, not that it's ever easy, but you start rolling. The hardest one's always the first one. What got you to get the audience you're talking to listen if they weren't before? Because it sounds like, and again, from me talking, like I'm just sitting here believing everything, like sign me up. And so you've obviously done this enough that you know what the hook was that got people to really listen, and what transitioned that from being an idea that didn't kick off in the boardroom that really took off in the pitch competition. Like what was the pivot that you think really listened, or was it the audience that changed?
I got more explicit. Like I was just like, vagina. I had an advisor. Her name is Carrie Stillman, amazing marketer. She started with cuisine art and really helped build that business. And we're at Rice Business Plan Competition. So it's the largest business plan competition in the world. and there were like hundreds of teams that applied from like all over. And we were talking, and she's like, no. You need to put a vagina on the slide. And I was like, oh, Kiri, like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? And she's like, nah. And then like, we went through multiple variations, and she's like, make it bigger and bolder. And I was like, I don't know, but like, it was crazy because that competition, it came down to 7 finalists. We were all considered winners because we all got money. Mm-hmm. And I was the only female CEO again. I was the only Black person CEO. We were the only women in the finals in general. And we were also the only product-based business like that they had seen in years.
Yeah. That
said, we did not win the diversity award. So like, shout out to them. I don't know how they count diversity, but it didn't go to us. And it was where we got our first venture capital check. And I remember learning, I was like, are we legitimately the only females? Because there was like a group with like females, and the females like, yeah, but that's okay. You're going to kill it. And I'm like, no, that's wrong. Okay. Like out of hundreds of applicants. But I think just being so explicit about vagina, it just stuck with both genders. They're like, that makes sense.
Right.
I didn't think about it that way until now, but
yeah.
Or like, you don't have to use like your imagination, right? Like we're just using the words to describe the thing. We're not trying to beat around or anything.
Well, and it's so wild because here at Glassport, like vagina and like menstruation are not like bad words here because we have products that like span that space. So for us in like normal conversation, that's really normal. And I still get looks when I'm not in the family here at Glassport of like, you're just talking about like at dinner? I'm like, yeah, it's a problem that needs to be solved. Like there's issues here. They're like, things aren't working. Yeah. And it's so funny how in society you'll meet with certain groups or people that is like, it shocks them and it takes them back. And then 5 minutes in, like, wait, that's a problem. There's things in this industry that aren't being taken care of. And it's such an amazing thing that once you warm people up, it's different. But just like, again, I can't agree with you more that doing it explicitly is the only way to get past that stigma.
You have to. I don't know. We tried saying things like illusions or stuff and like allegories. I don't know. Metaphors. Yeah. And people were just, but no. Well, it's interesting because we get contradicting feedback sometimes. Like in Techstars, we got feedback like maybe you should chill out on the word vagina. I was like, did you hear that explicitly from someone? And he was like, yeah, definitely. So then I went into my next meeting. I was like, they told me I should stop using vagina. What do you think? And they were like, no. And like the next like 3 meetings, everyone like unanimously agreed, like, nah, you just need to go for it.
No, I think send it. I mean, that's what your product is focusing on. That's like like directly what you're tackling.
I also always feel like it's like the best medicine for things not being awkward is just you talking about them and not them not being awkward for you. Then that's like true. People kind of just reciprocate, like, we're just talking about this now and it's normal now.
Yeah, it's also interesting, like once you open up that space, how many people have questions and issues with their vagina. Like I've definitely not even just vagina. It's like men have come to me and been like, yo, I got a yeast infection. I was like, word, I didn't ask you, but like, we can talk about that. Like, tell me how that affected you. And, we just talk about it because I definitely think in 2022, we are getting to a place where people realize how much healing they need, Mm-hmm. And like, if people are suffering from these issues in silence, and it's not just women, like I think about 1/3 of our customers are men, right? Who just like, their wives get pregnant and they're just like, yo, I don't know what's going on. Like, tell me how I can help her or especially if they date athletes. So men are definitely interested in these conversations. It's just, they probably don't necessarily have the words or know how to talk about
right, and
things.
what to Google and what to ask about and like how do you bring that into the lexicon of every day?
Yeah. So yeah, we've read ads about like yeast infections and like men like click them like significantly higher than women.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like we know of them but not about them. Where it could like,
yeah.
Again, do you know the stats? I have no idea what the stats are. If like what percentage of men versus women get them?
It was not about men yeast infections. It was really clearly one ad about female yeast infections.
Like, do you think the click-through was curiosity about just learning more?
I think it really was because, I think according to the CDC, about 1/3 of women have like bacterial vaginosis at any given time, right? And like men don't necessarily even know what that means. They're just like, something is different. So I guess I think with that particular ad, it was like, yeah, these leggings help fight yeast infections. And I think it was like 2 times as many men clicked through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. That is such an interesting fact. I'm taking that one home.
I don't know. That's what the data said.
Well, it sounds like even just amongst women, like talking about those issues is not necessarily, it's been stigmatized as well. And it's not necessarily something that was like super easy, like for your experience. Like you said, you kept it to yourself for a while, like it didn't feel great. And then finally you started to open up about it, whether it was to men or women.
Yeah, we've had focus groups where people have kind of like cried, especially like older generations, because they have said things like, this is the first time I felt seen. Like I've been just kind of dealing with these issues and hiding. You see a lot of people who experience shame, but you also just experience people who it's not even shame. They genuinely just don't know. Like, for example, we had a pop-up and this middle schooler came over and she was just kind of looking at the clothes. And I think she just thought the colors were pretty, if that makes sense. And then like, she was asking me what we did and she was a preteen. So I couched some of the words a little bit, like less like, kind of like soften her into feminism. And you could see like her eyes like lit up. And then I was like, okay, she ran away. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but like, okay, whatever. But then she came back like with a credit card and she's like, no, I need these now. And like, but she didn't know what she was dealing with because she wasn't ashamed. She just genuinely didn't have the words. She was like, something's just different and I don't like it.
Right. She was experiencing a thing that you could outline for her and then also present a solution.
Yeah. Not only told her what it was, but this is the fix all in one statement.
Yeah.
It was like,
that's crazy cool.
But that's so cool to build a product that so directly solves a problem that isn't like a problem like, oh, I don't know when my next appointment is. I need an Apple Watch to tell them. Like, you're solving a problem that people have been suffering with discomfort and unpleasantness without a good fix.
I would say it's not solving. Don't get me sued by anybody. Like 100%, that is not legal approved language. The Oya is not solving your yeast infections. We have not been FDA approved, but we are fighting them for sure. Like we are fighting them with patent. Our leggings are patent pending, and we are investing a lot in R&D around textiles and designs that promote feminine health. And it's honestly, we started just with the like bottom half of the body and just around like moisture. But we quickly learned that like women deal with moisture issues all over the body. So like millions of women are dealing with sweat related dermatological issues up top. So like boob rash, chest acne, back knee, and it's more prolific for us because we have to wear sports bras. Right. And so we're just learning all sorts of issues with the female body that definitely need help. So we're here to support.
Yeah, as I scroll through your website, there's a ton about it's not just athleisure, but there's a really scientific approach to it. Can you talk to just that R&D? Obviously, we overstep saying it's solving a problem. Yeah. What are you all doing? Because I mean, we deal with that a lot, right? What kind of claims are we trying to make, and how do we test to those? And I'm curious what you're doing now, if you see yourself, crossing that line to engage with FDA, or kind of what the trajectory looks like.
Yeah, so. We're the first athleisure brand to partner with doctors to actually build a product, like specifically OBGYNs and dermatologists. And according to them, vaginas are healthier if they are drier and more ventilated. So everything around and I'm not sure when or like how to break this down, but essentially everything in our legging, if you look at this, is called a crotch gusset. So this is like show and tell. We're learning new words today. Crotch gusset. Everything around this area is around how do we increase ventilation and decrease moisture. So this is actually mesh that was specially designed in LA. So for athletes, so it's super thick, but it's also it's breathable. But there's this almost like kind of like jacquard facing on it, so that way it's not see-through, because we don't want women to feel like exposed. And then if you flip on the inside of the legging, there actually is an insert that goes in here that's removable. And this insert absorbs leaks. Our goal for it right now is to absorb leaks. Right now, we absorb sweat. So when you're talking about like R&D and where we're looking to go, we're actually applying for an SBIR grant through the National Science Foundation to actually invent a textile genuinely speaking, I thought I was dumb because I was like, why can't I figure out how to absorb leaks? Like, what is going on? So I've been like sourcing fabrics for like 2 years, and like, I'm not going to toot my own train, but like at 17, I was like talking to like NASA recruits, like, and then like I was recruited to go to Harvard Business School. So I was like, if I can't figure something out, I was like, clearly I failed as an innovator. And like I don't know, but we just recently brought on a former Nike executive who focused on textiles and material science. Mm-hmm. And this fabric legitimately doesn't exist. So we want to create essentially a sponge. And this is what our SBIR grant will be around, a sponge that absorbs moisture. So whether this is like menstrual fluids or urine, because women leak sometimes when they're just like, I don't know if you ever heard women who don't like the box jump or like play jump rope or anything because they like you sneeze, they sneeze and they pee. Okay, yeah.
So what's funny is we actually had an incontinence device that we used as a prototype for another device. So we needed parts of that product line to like innovate the next thing, which is really funny. So very familiar with that product space. Actually, it was like an insertable that pushed from the inside out to pinch, which we thought was like, this is a problem. There's a solution. Yeah. So super cool product we found on Amazon that was out that we needed parts of for another product. So back down to the, if it doesn't exist, we'll make more than one thing together to make it work.
Yeah. That's a really big problem. Like I think about like anywhere from 25% to 1/3 of women suffer from like urinary incontinence. And we were trying to figure out how do we make apparel that absorbs that. And we've sourced so many different types of materials, but it doesn't exist. And partly why this fabric doesn't exist yet is because most textiles are made for like male athletes or male soldiers. And they are dealing with very different issues than us. So like dry fit, shout out to them. They figured it out. It's out there for them. But like moisture absorption, not so much. The best that we kind of have developed that's close to what we need is this concept of like period underwear. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah. But that's like kind of inadequate because period underwear are actually reusable baby diapers.
It probably doesn't breathe very well either.
No, it doesn't. And even more so than that, the liquid comes back out. So if you think about like a towel, like these diapers are kind of made with essentially terry cloth, which is cotton. And so what happens if you twist like a wet towel, the moisture will come back out. And so we need to create something that like keeps the moisture in. So that way, if like a WNBA player, because those are who testing our products right now, goes for like a layup shot, it won't just come out onto her uniform. But then at the same time, it's providing her the amount of ventilation she needs. Yep. And she's not sitting in a diaper. And so that is a big piece of our R&D roadmap this year. Next year, we really want to focus on creating a patent pending top that also involves this technology around a removable insert that kills bacteria and also absorbs moisture. We're also working on cooling fabrics. We just partnered with a Harvard lab to create the first probiotic textile by 2024. So people kind of like with this vaginal microbiome piece, like there are good bacteria and there's bad bacteria.
And you get rid of the good ones, the bad ones look to take over. Yeah. That's what no one understands. You can't just clean it, like sterilize, because then it's way bad. Just like your skin, like people like wash their face too much for acne. Yeah. You get way worse acne because the good bacteria is gone, which means there's more homes for the bad.
Exactly.
It's such a wild thing to like wrap your head around, but once you like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So right now we are dealing with antimicrobial fabrics, but we actually want to create like a probiotic fabric that actually like infuses the area with like really good bacteria. And so that's something we're testing or working on starting to test like in a lab, like how does that respond to like yeast infection cultures, et cetera. And then hopefully by 2024, our fabric that we were applying for through the SBIR grant will actually be coming into fruition and we'll be able to test that out. So we're not necessarily going for FDA approval. That's a lot of headaches and
paperwork.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. Like we're really into fashion. We're going for the WNBA partnership. You know, that's more so like our vibe, but we are really serious about testing our products. So partnering with like Hohenstein lab over in Germany to figure out how effective is this against fighting yeast infections like UTIs and bacterial vaginosis. The sad part though is that there's just not a lot of this research that exists. And so we know right now that we are actually going to be investing in just feminine health, FemTech like research just in general.
You're doing the research.
You're
right?
going to have to figure out what the test should be and pay for that, and then pay to do the test, not just pick up a test that someone else came up with and meet it.
Yeah.
No, that is so hard because it's so much harder to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Then, oh, I need to pass those tests.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
So you're not in a position where you can go to your like textile suppliers and say, I'm looking for something to absorb like menstrual fluid per se. You're just getting all the fabrics and you're just doing the testing yourself because there is no precedent for it.
We were literally making it up. Like we had an aeronautical engineer who was like doing these. He was like jerry rigging them, and but they were actually pretty effective testing. And then we met with Hohenstein Institute, and we were trying to figure out how to test things with them because they've done Thinks period underwear. They've done a lot of their testing, and we were describing things because it's not just we need this to absorb. We also need it to ventilate at the same time. So how do we test those two things simultaneously? And they were like, we actually don't know. But if you give us $15,000, we can try and figure that out. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see how that works out. So
no, that's really cool. And it's one of those things that you're not trying to just like wipe something up. It's not just absorption. You need to hold it. It's almost more like a silica gel.
Yeah.
That would like hold it in that you could then go clean and bake out. I'm assuming, let me ask, is the insert supposed to be removable or reusable or
both.
disposable?
Yeah, but not disposable.
Right, so it's remove and clean and then put back in.
Yeah. Because we do want to make an effort to support sustainability. But with our upcoming legging that absorbs leaks, I think they are going to have to be single use. That like the sweat absorption will be reusable, so you can wash that in a machine and put it in, pop it out, etc. But the leaks, and we're sad about it, but the material just doesn't exist yet.
Right.
We just can't. I can't poop new fabric. Like it's just if I could, I would have.
Right. No, it's one of those things like baby diapers. Like the modern baby diaper is actually amazing the way it works, the way it absorbs liquid, but not the reusable ones. You have to single use it because there's no way to get it out again.
Yes, and so I love where you're going. Like, yes, this is great. So partly why this SBIR grant is going to be so fantastic is just like this textile is the use cases. So it's not just women athletes who want to go live better lives or play their sports more comfortably and healthily, but it's also geriatric care because now you're looking at older men and women who will suffer from urinary incontinence as they age. It's postpartum care. So women, even if they don't want to wear athleisure, they're suffering from urinary incontinence and they don't want to wear a diaper. Like no one wants to.
It's not a fun time.
It's not a fun time. And then reusable baby diaper space. That's really like big and popping. And there's just so many. And then not even just women, there's also men, right? Who are just suffering from like sweat and like bacteria issues and things, especially cyclists. We get a lot of cyclists.
I was just at Eurobike, a big trade show for that over the last week, and it's amazing how much apparel there is in the show. And it'd be so cool if you guys could come in because all the apparel is just about the padding for comfort while you're riding.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anything about sweat or keep dry other than the dry fit generic conversation. But I think that space is really huge for innovation because again, women cyclists probably don't get enough look into how that seat system works for them. Because I know there's a few seats I saw that were just for women, which is very cool. That's a different support structure than the men's seats.
Yeah.
But I think if you guys could get that absorption in that space, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, that and tennis. I don't know if y'all have heard, or even just backing up before I even go into tennis, we have partnered with 3 WNBA teams to product test. And I remember being at a WNBA game or just a women's basketball game, and some of the star players had like wet spots on their crotches. And I was like, no, we can fix that. And that was just kind of a hunch. Like I didn't know like the size of that problem, just that like it was awful and we wanted to fix it. But now that we've started working with these WNBA players, what we've come to learn is women are so afraid about leaking through white uniforms, so much so that they will be wearing 4 to 5 pairs of spandex, like if they have their period or they just had a baby. Or sometimes each quarter they're running to the bathroom to like change to make sure that nothing happened. And it's like, how are you supposed to play your best game?
Yeah. How do you focus on that when you're worrying about this other problem that, again, should be fixed or fixable?
I don't know.
And here you are. I mean, that's awesome.
So you just observed this and had a hunch and then just kind of uncovered
it. And we were talking to like one of the personal trainers and she was like, yeah, some of these girls are like, and they were just kind of like, oh, this is just, it is what it is. And I'm like, it's really not.
It doesn't have to be.
I don't know. Like, I'm not on the WNBA level. Like, that's just not where I'm at. But like, we are currently going through prototypes for testing with Kiana Smith, who is a basketball player Olympian. Like, so shout out to her. Like, she's doing her own thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. And Candace Parker, the Chicago Women's Skies team. So yeah, out here supporting the Chinas.
That's awesome. And what's is the testing general, like, subjective feedback? Are you guys looking for some sort of like?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be both like in a lab, so we can test like how much moisture we can absorb under like pressure. There's also some tests around like heat, because that's like related to sweating, etc. Hohenstein started jerry rigging tests for us, and I was like, you could definitely jerry rig at a higher level than we can, but like I don't know. Eventually, like maybe we might like want a more advanced test. I'm not sure. But also comfort is a big piece of it, because again, women don't. I mean, I guess if you have to wear a diaper, that's like just what you're going to do. But we actually learned with this recent production batch that we were putting too much technology into our leggings, and that there are women on a scale who want different things. Like some women just are like, I don't want to wear underwear and I just want ventilation. And that's a different customer than a woman who's having full blown on leaks. And so we have to test that comfort piece and figure out how do we create products that fit across that entire scale.
Right. And maybe one product won't fit the whole scale. So how do you segment your product line in the right ways that they overlap? Like this user and this user can both share this product, but these guys share this product.
Exactly.
Because if only we could build products for every person, right? But that's never the case.
I genuinely, it's crazy. When we first launched, we sold out and we got so many angry emails. Like, the leggings fit amazing on certain people, but then like it was just all these other people. We're like, we don't even know where you came from. Like we want the feedback, but we designed for that Whole Foods lady. You know, she kind of works out, but really she's not really doing much. She's kind of going to yoga, and then we're getting like different sizes, like extra small, and then people were like, well, I need to use this for my Peloton situation. We're like, girl, I don't even own a Peloton, so like I don't know how. Like I did not test for that, and so I have definitely learned that like not one product is not for everybody. I've definitely learned.
Oh
that.
yeah, no, and it's got to be so hard with what you're building that it's so personal. Like clothing is such a personal fit. Like you and I were just talking before the show about like there's a few brands I can shop at here in the US that fit me, but in Europe, in Italy, like a lot more brands fit me there, and I can't imagine how hard it is to deal with customer sentiment around, do these leggings fit me well, even if the technology works for me?
Yeah, personal and political. It's
really?
Very political. Like sizing is an extremely political journey. Like we skew smaller, but that's because we actually have a lot of Asian customers, and they would complain if it was too large.
Yeah.
And they're like, this doesn't fit me. And so by doing that, then we also got feedback about it being too small and then it not fitting other Americans. So you kind of got to find that sweet spot there. But vanity sizing is definitely a thing. Like women don't want to size up, even if they actually are a size up.
Right. Like, in your brand, right? And it's almost like you should take away like small, medium, large and just like give it random characters, right? Like this is banana, this is orange, like just something completely unrelated to a number or a scale. But that's something that doesn't give them this mental image of bigger, right? Because I think it's so stigmatized that size bigger is worse, which isn't always the case, right? It just might be the way you're built or how tall you are, things like that. But could you, basically take it away from a scale and say, go get sized. And we're not going to tell you what you are on the scale, but in our store, in our sizer, you are a banana, just something completely random, and go buy the size in our brand. And that way there's no stigma around, oh, you're an XL in our brand or double XL, just because we're trying to size for, like you said, like maybe the Asian market where an extra small in American might still not be small enough for them. Right. So, could you take those sizing scales away from each other?
Yeah, we're actually working on a size chart right now because shapes are huge. Like, are you a triangle? Are you an apple? Are you a pear? Are you...
Because the proportions can go crazy different in just, let's call it 2 feet of a human body between knee and hip, which is, I'm just picking out the leggings for one of your products.
Yeah, for sure.
But, the thigh size compared to like the waist compared to like the biggest area or the butt or whatever, I'm sure that's a wild span.
Yeah, and you need different waistbands to appropriately cover that. So even rectangles, right? Like most athletic women, a lot of athletic women are just rectangles. Like they're like thicker. But that's I Such an off the wall thought. I'm into that.
But you carried the fruit analogy. You guys had this like whole food analogy that carried on. It worked out.
But I mean, send it. Feel free to take that idea. Like I think it'd be awesome to take, because I know that like I am different sizes, like medium or small versus American clothes or European clothes.
Yeah.
And it sucks that I just have to figure out what I am in each brand. But I don't suffer.
Shout out to you for having that problem.
Yeah. But
it's a good problem.
It's one of those things that you're like, does it need to be the scale, or can it be in that brand? This is what I am, for people that would be self-conscious, right? So I think that's such a thing. That how do you size that? How do you get I remember the old Victoria's Secret ads where I was like, come in and we'll size you for a bra properly, right?
Yeah.
Because do you guys like have like ambitions of doing like physical locations? Is that on your radar?
Yeah. Well, REI just became an investor.
Congratulations.
So our goal is to ideally in 2023 start with some local stores around LA, and then hopefully do national distribution. Sizing is definitely difficult, especially for women, because like men have been in the military. So like y'all sizing is just more down to a science. Does that make sense? Like, because it's like they had to mass produce your uniforms.
Right.
And like women, like we just have it. So things are just a lot more varied. Like, what is a medium? There's no...
In this brand, basically. This medium is this. Exactly. But another brand may be completely different.
Well, I'm curious, just what is Oya's goal? Is your goal just to have the sizing that makes the most sense to the most of your customer base? Or you mentioned like vanity sizing is to make people feel the best. Like if you had to have like an overarching goal of how you size things, what's the mission there from Oya's perspective?
I mean, that is a political question. I would say honestly, it's to get as many women or people with vaginas, as we would say, in it who feel comfortable. So we just, by virtue of our product testers, it just varies. So like we have WNBA players, so we know we need to go tall at some point because they're taller than the average human. We have women who are size extra small up in SF hiking. Like that is a target customer of ours as well. Specifically like Japanese or Korean. Like that is one of our target customers.
Yeah.
And we want to create a brand that's really focused on inclusion. And so if you look at a lot of our messaging and our imagery, like we are really intentional about that. To some extent, that has actually come back to bite us because since we are a startup, we just don't have enough SKUs to best support all of that diversity. Kind of similar, I think it's Khloe Kardashian has that line, Good American, where they do like half butt sizes. So they do like butt sizes and hip sizes.
Got it.
And they won't let a boutique carry their line unless they can carry the full line of all the SKUs.
You have to carry all the SKUs for us to ship you any product to be inclusive. That's actually a pretty hard to meet but cool message.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if we're that aggressive yet. I mean, she definitely has a Kardashian name behind her, which helps with those things. But I think that is definitely where we one day aspire to be. I feel sad that we don't get to carry all sizes right now to make women feel beautiful. But I do think that we are learning how to be more inclusive in different ways. So athleisure as a category is not necessarily the most welcoming to every body type. It can be intimidating for certain bodies. And we just did a pop-up at the WNBA All-Star game, and we made a t-shirt that said, mind your own uterus, because I was like, this is how I feel today. We're just going to go for it. Like, I don't know who's going to buy this, but I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
So I'll put it out there.
100%. And we started getting way older, like, and men who were buying it for themselves, older women, different shapes women. And I think that there's that really opened my eyes that there are ways that you can create your product line where people can participate. They want to participate in the brand,
in the messaging and what you guys are all about, right?
And we just have to be inclusive of that. So moving forward, we're definitely going to be carrying t-shirts because athleisure is not necessarily for everyone. So to your point, our goal is to develop an inclusive size range. I really admire Nike for how inclusive a lot of their sizes are, high, tall, petite, etc. That said, we really want to take sizing to the next level. So we're looking into like getting AI stuff on like our website. Like, I don't know if you've seen this Amazon thing where you can take a picture and it builds you a custom t-shirt.
Yep. No, that's I just gonna ask that question of like if you couldn't do it in person, could you rely on like smartphones today and a mirror to get halfway there, right? To get an approximate size of this is our range of sizes that'll fit you best from your image. we'll send you the upper, the lower, and the middle, and send 2-pack or something like that.
We have done that program. It's like choose your best fit, and customers really like that. It's hard from an inventory level because like half your inventory is always out in the store. But we also do it at pop-ups because men will just come over like, yeah, I don't know. So it's like me and this man on like Instagram being like, all right, can you give me a better picture of her butt? Like you ain't got no pictures. Like, come on, like, I don't know what's up. And so, no, this really happened. So then I'd send him home with 2 sizes and he brings me back the one that like that she liked the best. So yeah, sizing is just really
a really hard problem.
It's really, really hard. And I think certain brands just tackle it by really going to the middle and staying really aggressive about their sizing. So, for example, Alo or Lululemon really made a big name for themselves in the sense that they just cater to one body type for like decades. And eventually they got slammed because they were like, people were like, you got to be more diverse. We're at the opposite end. We definitely want to be diverse. But another thing is, we are not like one of those brands that pops up at an overseas factory where they just make all the sizes range. Like our clothes are, for the most part, manufactured here in the US. I know my manufacturer's name. His name is Rolando. Rolando is when on text message because we care and we want to care throughout our entire supply chain. So we just have to be thoughtful about it. But we do want to be very intentional.
No, that's awesome. And again, I think that story was so cool to hear from start to finish. That there's this technical problem about the sizing, how other people are doing it, how you guys want to solve it, and where you guys are going. And unfortunately, I think we've got to start pulling this guy in and wrapping this up, or we could go talk on for all of eternity.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No worries. But I just want to say I'm so glad we ended on that because you've got this awesome product that you're working on that I think sells itself at the moment. Again, I was here learning about how you got them. Like, this makes all the sense in the world. How are you guys like the only ones tackling the problem? But like, it's so cool that you are. And to hear that the sizing thing isn't just an easy problem to solve. Because again, one of the things that Ben and I always talk about in product development, that there's no easy problem. No matter how easy it sounds, it's probably the hardest thing you're going to do that day. It's always the hard ones that have some unique solution that you stumble upon and, okay, we've got the answer. But it's the easy things like, oh, that should be easy to solve, that are so hard to pull off in the real world. And it's so cool to like end on this topic of, shouldn't sizing be easy? But it's the infinitely variable thing that making it custom, sure, but making a business out of it, that's really hard to do.
Yeah, we are having conversations now, bringing in a designer to communicate our size chart in a more beautiful way. It changes with fabric, it changes with fit, it changes with product, because we even have to adjust for like vagina sizing. Like,
right.
Because how do we make your vagina look good if there's an insert in here? There's so many shapes of vaginas.
Right.
Like,
and a gusset has to fit the entire span.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's almost like ergodynamic.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's awesome. Well, Ben, any other questions or comments here?
No, I think, your mission is so cool. I hope you get it into the hands of as many people as you can. So fascinating to talk to you about the whole journey. I wish we had 4 more hours to keep talking.
I know. And once the cameras turn off, we might.
Yeah.
I know. But again, thank you so much for coming. I know it's hard to take time out of a day when you're running a company like this that's doing cool stuff. But thank you so much for sharing your story and what you guys are working on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and the ideas about bananas and apples. I think that's really cool. I like where your brain went left. And y'all two were very welcoming. So very appreciative.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.